gasa?
I mean, that's why I asked. It says behemoth. First thing that comes to mind, Tuck, is a behemoth gasa, but he doesn't specify. So I guess.
Yeah, so maybe it means a behemoth daka because you wouldn't want to throw a rock at a behemoth daka. It's going to kill you. I'm saying at a behemoth gasa, it'll kill you.
A behemoth daka. Did you ever see? You go on the internet, you can see these goats, the angry goats that are goring people. You ever look at that? I guess not.
Yeah, okay.
But the Behema dakas could be very destructive as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, so today's broadcast is sponsored by Rabbi Frami Friedberg in honor of the Simcha of the Sunday coming of Chosin, as well as that everyone should be Masliach. I forgot his exact nusach. I also want to mention in today's year we're going to discuss. I remember when in the Alte Yesode things were very old-fashioned, needless to say. So in the olden days, they used to have these receipt books with a piece of carbon paper that they would move from receipt to receipt. So when they wrote the receipt, it would create a second copy. Does anybody remember those carbon paper receipt books?
Sure.
So there was a guy downstairs in the facilities, and there was no paper. So an Alte, he's banging on the walls of the stall, paper, broken paper. So a guy, I don't know, he's stuck in a piece of paper. The guy uses it, and the guy comes out, and a half hour later, black next door. What's this meeting again? And it was just a piece of black carbon paper. So that's what we're going to discuss. We're going to have a discussion today. L'halacha, what do you do if you're in a situation and there's no paper? If you're in a situation on Shabbos and there's no cut toilet paper, how do you deal with the roll? How do you roll with the punches?
Guys, I thought you taught us a couple months ago that they used to use stones.
In the Gemara's time they did use stones, but from the Gemara we're going to have a shot. From the Gemara we're going to be able to bring out what the halacha would be nowadays if there was no paper.
Uh-huh.
I just want to quickly read it again because it wasn't recorded. A bone to make a spoon. To make a lock. Glass to sharpen a stick that was used in the weaving process to untangle threads. A rock to throw out a bird. The Lizard with Behema, and the consensus of David Zolti and Chaim Tzvi is that it's a Behema Dak. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Remember, are you telling me the Shiura the Rabbi Yehuda Nafish? Are you saying that Rabbi Yehuda is Mekel over the Tanakama, meaning that Rabbi Yehuda holds you need enough bone to make a whole lock? Hakaim alone, we learned the Shiura the Rabbanan Nafish that in fact Rabbi Yehuda is Machmer and the shear of the Rabbanan is more. And Dovi brought it up yesterday. Why is one taller than the other? And the ArtScroll speaks out that it's a machloikis in. Do you look at the most common use of the product, or do you look at any significant use of the product, even though it would be a smaller use? Rabbi Yehuda's machmer and the Rabbanan are mekel. Amar Ula chafi poisachos. We don't mean an entire lock made out of bone. This lock could be made out of metal or wood. The portion that we're talking about that Rabbi Yehuda says is big enough to create an Isser Tzah is if it's merely one of the spokes, one of the pins inside the lock. That's what we're referring to, which is much smaller than the amount of bone that's used to make a spoon. Tanurabam, chafi posachas. If you have a pin in a lock, tahirin, it's tar. It's tar if it's not placed in to the lock because a little pin of bone is useless. But kovod b'pesachas, once you can put it as part of a lock, once you assemble the lock, and now this is a component of a lock, to me it's going to be tamei because now it's a component of a keli that's makabel tumah. Vishal gal, what if this lock was the bolt on the gate that was connected to a stone fence that was mechuber lakarka? Then alpha b'shachim b'delis. Even though you put this lock on the door, the kovod b'mismarim, and it's permanently there, so you might think for sure it's a keli. To hirin, it'll still be tar because once it's on the gate of a stone wall, she called mechubel karka harehu karka. Now it's mechubel karka, and anything that's mechubel karka is not mekabel tola. Now I use the word stone, which is really incorrect. It's any mechubel karka. Any gate that was part of a permanent structure is mechubel karka, and there's no kabbalas tola. Zechuches, how much glass is critical glass? Could they linger a boy to sharpen something? Tana sechuches with a samach, could they lift soyaba shnei nimin ka'achas, big enough piece of glass where you could cut two threads together, and that happens to be exactly the same size as the zechuches the Mishnah talks about. But you see, glass is referred to as zechuches with a zayin, and as sechuches with a samach. So Rashi tells us that glass was actually referred to with both names. So Rashi here says sechuches is zechuches glass. Why is it called sechuches? Hashem says soichen, since it's clear, it's transparent, and you could look through it, you can gaze through it, kari sechuches. Hashem shizaka, since it's clear, kari zechuches. So these are both legitimate words to say glass. Tzrara Evan, kidei boy, big enough to throw at a bird. Rabbi Lezer says to throw at a behema. Omer b'Yaakov, Omer b'Yochanan, v'hu mar geshes ba. It's got to be a big enough rock that the behemoth feels it when you throw it at it. So I guess depending on the animal, but it's got to be big enough of a rock that the animal will feel it. The Chameshiru, and how big is a rock that an animal will feel? Tanya B'Lezman Yaakov Omer, Mishkol Asar Zuz. It's the weight of a Asar Zuz. Now, a Zuz probably weighs very little. So the weight of a Asar Zuz being significant enough for an animal to feel, I think it would be mistaber to say, like you said, that it's a behemoth daka. Because I would think if it would be for behemoth gasa, it would have to be the size of a bowling ball. Okay, zoom.
Our scroll says it's 42.5 grams. That's not so heavy.
That's very light. So that's why it must be talking about a behemoth daka. Because you throw 42.5 grams at a bull, he won't even feel it.
Yeah.
Zunin in many cases was a goy, but in this case it was a yid. Zunin all the baby Joshua. Zunin came to the Beis Medrash. Omer lahu, he told him, Rabbi Isai, I need to ask you a question. Avonim shel beis hakisei shi'urin b'kama. What is the shear of stones that are used in the beis hakisei? And this is going to be the subject matter of the next blot, beis hakisei, and all the other senses that all of the senses that participate in the beis hakisei experience. So what is the shaila? Shi'urin b'kama. So Rashi says actually that he was asking two questions. He was asking l'schayev alein, how big do stones have to be to make them significant that you'd be mechuyev for itzah? And the second question was inami l'taltlim b'chotzer ulachnis lebeis hakisei. What if you need to take stones with him to the beis hakisei? Stones are normally muksa. How big do the stones have to be? What's the proper size of stones that you could say would be not muksa because you could use them with the beis hakisei? But the idividi chachuru, the size would be the same for both halachas. Anything that's good enough to use for a basic kisei, which would not make him not muksa, would also be a significant amount that if you were moichik b'shus l'shus, there would be a chiyuv chatos. So let's see what he said. So they told him as follows. You have to have three different sizes. Why do you have three different sizes? Again, it gets very technical. Zot Rashi, shalosh machnisim lekinuach, and you use them. You first use the smaller stone, then you use the middle stone, and then you use the big stone. Why is that? First, you use the smallest one just to focus on the bullseye, on the epicenter. Why? To get rid of the dirt that's there. Because if you start with the big one, it would act like a trowel. If you use the big one, it would act like a trowel and smear it around, which would not be good. Therefore, you have to use three different sizes. So those would be the sizes for the basic kisei that would be mutter al muksa, yet usher with the deraisa to carry out the shus l'shus. Amalu, he said, v'chi turtani Yachnis. Like, what do you want me to do? Would you expect me to take a scale with me every time I go to the bathroom to figure out the exact size stone I need for each thing? So then they said, we're just going to give you a total share of how much rock to take in total, and that was just to have a handful. And Rashi, it doesn't matter if there's many stones or less stones. The main thing is that between all the stones, it will be a handful of stones. Tanya Yosy Simon, kezayis ke'ego zukubetza. But so the shaila is, you have to have 3 specifically sized stones, or just a handful of stones does the trick. Now, nowadays, people don't have experience, and we can't really state an opinion as to how this will work. But in those days, that was the very real. Taner Avanim. Gimel Avanim, if they had a pandemic, was there like a run on stones? I'm not sure how it worked in those days.
Yosy, can you imagine that there are archaeologists who have a specialty in this? I'm sure. There must be archaeologists that go to Masada and they go digging, trying to figure out which stone is which. Oh, this is the first stone, this is the second stone.
It lends new meaning to the Stone Age.
The Stone Age. This is somebody's specialty. Somebody has a doctorate in this subject. I guarantee.
Thank God we don't have this type of experience anymore.
You're allowed to take 3 sharp stones. They have to be sharp, so I guess you could scrape with them. 3 of them would be mutter to be taken into the basic kisei. And Rashi says we're not speaking about possibly being over the Raisa. So for sure, it's within 4 amas, meaning you're not going to be making a tzavar shel shus, or it's speaking in the chotzer, and the question is a question of muksad lister the til to live. So 3 stones you're allowed to take with you. The chamish yurin, and how big are these stones? Rabbi Arbe ke'egois, Rabbi Arbe ke'beitza. Amar Rafim bar Papa, Amar Rab Chisda. Kemachloikis kan, the same machloikis that you have here, kach machloikis be'esrik, so too would be the machloikis by an esrik. How big an esrik has to be. In fact, the Gemara, you're making it sound like esrik, it's unknown, but if you look over here, it will teach you what the pshat in the Mishnah by esrik is. In fact, the Gemara, that makes no sense. Hasam masnisin, hachabraisa. If anything, the Mishnah is the place where there's clarity that will teach us what pshat by the brisa. But to use a brisa, which is not as trustworthy as a Mishnah, to tell us what the case of the Mishnah is, Ella, it's the opposite. The same halachas that you find by Esrik, you can apply to here as well. So the shaila is just to clarify that by Esrik, the shaila is on the minimum size of the Esrik, not the maximum size of the Esrik. So too, it must be that the shaila here on the rock is the minimum size of the rock. But a bigger rock for sure is going to be allowed. So it's very interesting over here. We're discussing what size rock is big enough to be over the Isser Eitzah. So there's a big shaila. Sometimes you're walking to shul and you have a pebble in your shoe. Would there be a problem of Eitzah or Mavir and Dalaramas B'Shus Harabim if you had a pebble in your shoe? So Rabbi Vaji Yosef, in his Shuvah Sefer, brings down a fascinating story from Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital quotes his Rebbe Arizal that there was once a neshama. I don't know how the Arizal knew this, but he was more aware. There's once a neshama. We know every yahrzeit the neshamas are rejudged and they go up because they generated through the multi-level marketing scheme. They're now getting schar for other good things that happened in the world since last year. That's what we say the neshamas will have an aliyah because it goes up every year, cashing in on the schuyas of the lower tiers of the multi-level marketing. And one year there was a neshama that was held back, and it was held back. It was a big tzaddik. It was held back because they were money from this tzaddik the fact that he would not take stones out of his shoes, and he would be mavir dalaramis b'shus harabim stones in his shoes. And Avada, Dr. Avada Yosef, there's no issue deraisa here at all because they're small and you're misasik. So there's so many reasons why this is not a deraisa, but he was just trying to highlight how they were money from these tzaddikim to chut hasayr. Now, why would he have rocks in the shoes? Everyone knows the famous story with the dayan. There was once a dayan who was known not to be such an erlich dayan, and when he would paskin up dinei Torah between two people, he would sit on one side of the desk, and the two baladinim would sit across the table from him, one towards the right and one towards the left. And what he would do is he would always come to the Torah with boots, and he would take his boots off during the Torah, leave them empty. And then if the boot on the right had more coins in it, then that's the svara that he held would be more correct. And if the boot on the left had more coins in it, then that's the svara that he thought would be mistaber. So before he passed him, he would put his feet back into his boot to feel around. So once he felt that the whole right boot was full, and he passed him, of course, like the person on the right. The person on the right was right. So after the entire they leave, and he goes back into his room, and he checks his boot, and he sees it's full of stones. And he says, what a falsche Welt. Zog the hele Gemara weiter. So that's the story, my story about stones in the shoe. Zog the hele Gemara. Omer Rabbi Yehuda, avoloi is a pious, not a pious. What is a pious? My pious. Omer Rabbi Zeir, karshine bavliyosa. Karshine bavliyosa, which would be clumps of earth, not necessarily from bubble, Rashi says, but in bubble they used to have hard earth. So these clumps of earth you would not be able to use for the basic Yisei. I guess it would fall apart, and it wouldn't. Rashi says the hoil umifracha lechazul lekanuch vasur l'talta. It's not a product that would be good for kinuch, and therefore it would be muksa, and of course there wouldn't be an iser, there wouldn't be a chiyuv chatas for daled amos because it's of no value. Amar Rabba, osher lemashmish b'tzror b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to use a rock on Shabbos kederech shemamashmish b'choil, the same way you would boot b'choil. But the problem is mishmush was a laxative. Their version of X-lax was really rock lax, because they would use a rock and they would move it around over there. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, and they would use it to open up their bowels. So Rav is saying it's also to do it on Shabbos like you do it b'choil. Matzka flor ma'azrutra l'stakin. We know that if someone is constipated, it leads to hadroikin, Rashi says, which is a very bad disease. So are you suggesting that people on Shabbos should put themselves into sakana? No, we mean kalachayad. Your avadi allowed to be memashmish, but you cannot be memashmish in the same way as you would be memashmish b'choil. You have to do it differently. Amar Biana, and yesh makam kavua. The basic he say male hayad. If it is a makam kavua where everyone used that basic he say, then you're allowed to carry as many rocks as you need. You know why? Because even if you're not going to need them, it'll be good for the next guy. You're allowed to take extra tissues into the bathroom and leave some for the next guy. But lav, if you're going to a place that's not normally used as a basic kisei, then kehechber. You're only allowed to take with you the amount of toilet paper that you need. Rashi's kashir hamachriya keegois novish mikazais zutuk mikabetza. Exactly the right amount, like an egois. But no one's going to be able to use it later. Meducha ktana shal b'samim. And this is actually a shaila how you learn this line. There's Rashi learns that it's a separate halacha. Meducha ktana shal b'samim. If you have a small pestle, which is the stick that you would crush spices with, so would you be able to use that as a rock? If it has on it what we call a skid mark, then it would be allowed to be used. So what does it say in Rashi? You would need an indication on it that shows that it's being used for the washroom. Then mutar l'tatala l'kinuach. Otherwise, it's a klisha malach l'isser. It's made to grind things. But if it has an indication that it was in fact being used for kinuach, then it would be allowed.
Hopefully you don't use it for making cough medicine afterwards.
Yeah, that would be very, that would be important. It would be very important. Okay, Zok the Hele Gemara weiter. So Toshis gives a little bit of clarification. Toshis Milsa Bapinavshi, he appears Mutakalikanechba, Afilu Gedoiler Yosy Mikabeya, even if it was bigger than the shear, Im Yesh, Harbi Milayad, Mutalito, Kulon, given the Yesh Alayan Aid, Bukhanu Kulon. Since you're allowed to take even more than a handful of it, you're allowed to take as much as you need because it clearly has an indication on it that this is set aside to be used for this purpose.
Yes. Can you just clarify? So if the stones are of a size that they're useful for this particular action, then you're allowed to carry them on Shabbos, or you're not allowed to?
Then you're allowed to, because you need them for the basic Kisa.
So are you talking about from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah?
No. We mean that they would the Rabbanim would waive the muksa prohibition of moving rocks around.
Okay, they're waiving the muksa prohibition, but not the carrying prohibition.
Correct. So if it was just a rabbin, you'd have a problem.
But isn't this whole Gemara we're talking about? Is the focus of the mission about carrying something? What's the size to carry something?
Well, that's how we got into this conversation.
But this is now we're off track.
We're off track. That's right. We got tied up in the bathroom.
So the bathroom is always talking about Rosh Hashanah. It was always Rosh Hashanah. All the conversation in the bathrooms is in whatever, going in your own yard, like not going into Rosh Hashanah.
Well, so Rashi says over here, the question was either lachnisa b'toich dalaramis, you can carry them Rosh Hashanah, but you can't carry them dalaramis. So if you're right near the basic Kisa, you could pick it up and carry it, as long as it's not going to be 4 amis. Or it's a question of in a chotzer, where there's no question of carrying, and the question is to litzer the linu, that there should be no iser al tzmuksa. So the way we got into this conversation is to discuss how big of a stone is significant. And since the main use of stones in those days was to use for the bathroom, so whatever stone would be appropriate to use for the bathroom would be considered a malacha if you were mochik mishus l'shus. But that same shear is also the same shear that they would waive the violation of muksa for if it was within a rishus. So that's how we sort of stepped over to the other side, is because it's exactly the same shear that would be applicable to both halachos.
Okay,
so let's see the Gemara about it.
Yes, you don't have any videos for this one?
Meisvei. Asar dvarim mevinus adol tetachtonis. There's 3 things that if you do them, it brings you to have hemorrhoids. These are the list. Ha'oichel ali kanim. If you eat leaves from kanim. Well, let's see how he touches the word kanim. From leaves of the reeds. I'm not sure what the leaves are. I guess they're okay. But ali gefanim, and if you eat shoots, which I guess are very soft stems that are on a vine. The lulove gefanim. No, ali gefanim are leaves from a vine. The lulove gefanim are the shoots, small twigs that grow before they harden of grapes. Umarige behema, the loy malach. Mariga behema without salt. And Rashi explains mariga behema are any meat that's not smooth. So, for instance, tongue. Rashi says the tongue is not a smooth surface; it's a bumpy surface. Rashi also throws in the base akoisos. One of the stomachs has a whole series of like suction cups in it, so it's not a smooth skin. It's a ridged type of meat. That also causes hemorrhoids. The shidre shaldag, if you eat the spine of a fish. The dag meliach, this is very nagei to us. The dag meliach shalibishal kotzarkoi, herring that's not fully cured. If you put it in half-baked herring, that could lead you to hemorrhoids. DYLive is smiling because he's thinking of all the other potential problems that could be available if you eat the herring that's not prepared properly. Vashoisha shmora yain, and if you drink the pieces of wine, v'mekaneach besid uvecharsis, and someone who uses not a hard stone but uses sid and charsis which could crumble, those are dangerous. And I don't know who would do this. Bitzror shekinach boy chaveroi, using recycled paper using a rock that somebody else used. And there are those who say, someone who doesn't sit on a toilet seat, but somebody who squats. Let me ask you a question. In China, is there a particular higher incident of hemorrhoids? Because in China, they do not have toilet seats. Everybody has to squat.
It's called a Turkish toilet.
I know somebody that's the father of somebody in this year who told me that he once Loyalenu had to be hospitalized in China. And if he had to go to the washroom, he simply couldn't use it. So he had to rent a hotel room across the street. And every time that he needed to use the facilities, he had to walk across the street to his hotel room because it just didn't work for him. So, but it says here that causes, it says over here with Fairs, that causes tachtonis, it causes hemorrhoids. So Frek the Gemara, it says in Yeshala Aid, it says, one second. Thank you very much. It says in Yeshala Aid, if it has an indication that it was used before, then you're allowed to use it. But here it says if you use something that's already used, it could pose a problem.
So like the AB from something that you used.
Oh, so the Gemara is going to offer 3 terutzim, and one of them is going to be that teretz, and it makes a very big difference who used it first. That's right. So the problem is that the Gemara is asking. We said before that this meducha has to have a skid mark on it, and then you can use it. It causes hemorrhoids. How could someone even consider using it? So it all depends. If it's fresh and wet, then that's going to cause tachtonis. But what we're talking about, it's a dry indication. So we know it was used before, but right now it's dry. If it's dirty on all sides, yeah, then you have a problem with tachtonis. But if it's just dirty on one side, you could use it on the other side. Like Rav Shai said, if it's a remnant from him, then it's not a problem. He can use it, and we say that's not muksa. But if somebody else has used it before, then maybe he should avoid using it because there could be a problem with hemorrhoids. Amalei Abaye. These things are so foreign to us because in our society we wouldn't dream of doing like this. Amalei Abaye. Yosef. I would ask people that go camping, I mean, I guess people who go camping probably take toilet paper with them. That's an essential item. Amalei Abaye Rabbi Yosef. What have happened if your dual geshomim vinish tashdeshu? It was dry, and then it rained on them, and now it became wet again. What's the halacha? Can you still use it, or do you say now it's no longer marked? If it still has some little thing, then it's mutter. Why? So Rashi explains why. Because the main thing is it has to be designated for a basic kisei, and it clearly not going to be used as this klisha malach that it is. Clearly, it's not going to be used to be grinded anymore. So Rashi says if there's even a little bit of an indication that this was used for a basic kisei, the kivin the most lechazi lebipsamim. No one's going to use a pestle to grind bisamim if there's a remnant of the dover moss on it, and therefore it's still in the category of a tror that he can use for the bishkisei, and it won't go back to its klisha malach iser of being a pestle. Boy, when Rabbi Bar Rav Shila, my Rab. Rabbi Bar Rav Shila had a shaila from Rav Chisda. Ma'u la loisam acharav lagak. And this is going to be a very interesting shaila. Rashi and Tosfos learned the shaila differently. Rashi learned that the shaila is im olosham lifnois michashinu latirchi yaser sharloi. Schlepping rocks up to the second floor. If someone was fortunate enough to have a private bathroom upstairs, is he allowed to schlep these rocks because it's going to be difficult for him? It's a tircha. So the shaila is, are you allowed to schlep it al tirchi yaser? Tosfos learns differently, and Tosfos is very negei l'maisa. Tosfos learns as follows. The shaila is as follows: the hacham miboyle, which from the basic kisei, Korav alagag. Since you don't have to go out to the field for this basic kisei, you have a private bathroom in your house. And because of that, Erev Shabbos, you could have prepared for Erev Shabbos whatever you need. So maybe Chazal wouldn't be matter you to be metaltal muksa, because you could have prepared it specifically on Erev Shabbos. Maybe then it should be also. So that's the two ways to learn the Shiloh. So Amr Lei, he said, Godol kovod habriyos shedoiches loises Shabbatayah. Kovod habriyos is doiches loises Shabbatayah. It says that there's a mitzvah to pick up an Agudah of your friend, but the pasuk darshans v'salamto man prat lezakin ve'enel l'chvich voidai. A zakin who it's not proper for him to bend down and pick up Avedis, he's potter. So you see, there's a ptur for the mitzvah daraisa of being machshir and Aveda. There's a ptur because of kovod habriyos. So you see, kovod habriyos is a serious ach, and because of that, we're going to be matir. So this is where there's a shiloh. What happens if someone finds himself in a washroom and he doesn't have cut toilet paper? So the halach is, for sure, if it's not your bathroom, if you're a guest by somebody else, and there's no tissues there, and there's no way you could have prepared for that, you're by somebody else, you're a shul, so he brings down that you're allowed to cut not on the line, because kriya is really, it's not cutting ahonas to sew. It's tearing not for a constructive purpose. So like we learned, the only reason why tearing is also because you want to sew it up. But this is something that you're not going to be sewing up later. So it's a derabanan anyway. So since it's derabanan and it's kovod habriyos, kalachayad, you'd be allowed to tear the toilet paper not on the lines. However, if it was in your house where you should have prepared, you might not be allowed to. And I know that I believe the Dirsha Mishabura says, if I remember correctly, we have to look it up, that if someone didn't have toilet paper and it didn't cut, he can use the toilet paper, but he can't tear it off. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as a Victor's face. So I think I remember learning the Dirsha Mishabura. I didn't have a chance to look. I don't have a Dirsha Gimel, so I didn't look it up now. But it's not so pashut in your own house. But you definitely, if it's somebody else's house, and there's no cut toilet paper, you definitely allowed to tear the paper klachayad. But I'm not paskening anything. I'm just saying over what Rabbi Elephant mentioned from the Chuvas Chelkis Yaakov.
Yosy, it must be mutter, because if you would not tear it in your own house, your wife would kill you. So for that reason, it must be mutter to tear it.
Oh, gewaltig. Chaim Tzvi said something very beautiful. I hope, Chaim Tzvi, can I quote you? Because it's a very beautiful thing that you wrote. That you see from the fact that the Gemara gets into such detail about such a sensitive, uncomfortable topic is testimony of how, when it comes to learning Torah, it's lilmod and itzorich, and the Gemara doesn't leave any stone unturned when it comes to understanding halacha. And lahavdil goyim, they use education as an excuse to talk about things that are highly inappropriate, and they use education as an excuse to discuss these things. While Ba'idin's exactly the opposite. They're looking to understand halacha, and nothing stops them when it comes to understanding in detail. Like we learned in the Gemaras and Brachas, where Talmidei Chacham would hide in the bathroom or hide under beds. Why? Because they only wanted to learn, nothing more than that. And I can tell you, hiding in the bathroom when someone's there is definitely not a pleasurable experience. But the Gemara leaves no stone unturned when it comes to getting clarity in the law.
No stone unturned, literally.
Indeed, yeah. Okay, so let's see the Gemara back here. Yosef Meremar, the Amar Lo Hashmaitzu. Meremar was saying over this halacha. Eisvei Rabbeinu Levamer. Rabbi Lezer Omer, Noit Lodem Kisa Mishalafonov, Lachtas Bashinav. If you're walking down the street and you have some meat in between your teeth, so you're allowed to pick up a splinter from the floor, which would be muksa, to get to use as a toothpick to get the meat out of between your teeth. You're not allowed to. You have to take from something that was already prepared. If it was in a trough with the food that you're serving babies, it was already prepared. And the Tosha brings out it doesn't have to be in the office; it has to be royal office. So So you see over here from the Chachamim that you're not allowed to do it. There, a person is kaveh makam l'suda, meaning he knows where he's going to be eating. So since he knows where he's going to be eating, he should have prepared a toothpick in advance, and that's why the Chachamim hold we don't let you violate muksha and just pick up a splinter from the floor to use as a toothpick. But when it comes to basic kisei, adam kaveh makam basic kisei, a person doesn't know where he's going to use the basic kisei, and Rashi gives more detail. Even if you have a place where you normally use, you can't rely that will be available when you need it. So Rashi says, they didn't have basic kisei in their house. Many people only lived on the second floor apartment where they couldn't have a basic kisei because basic kisei by them didn't have plumbing, it was only in the ground. So they always had to walk out to a public bathroom somewhere, and therefore it would be impossible to prepare. So maybe over there, we're matter muksal kovod habriyos. But mahechet for a toothpick, which you know where you're going to eat, you know when you're going to eat your toothpick, and you should have prepared it, mahechet they would allow it. So again, this all hammers home the fact that if you could have prepared, we're not going to be matter anything with the kovod habriyos. And that's why in your own house, where it was incumbent upon you to prepare toilet paper for Shabbos, if you don't, then you can't assume that they'll be heterim because of kovod habriyos. Amar Avuna. Also, lifnois besada near b'Shabbos. A sada near is a field that was plowed and it's ready to be planted. So a person is not allowed to use a sada near to go to the bathroom. My timer. What's the reason why this will be also? If it's because not because you're using it to the bathroom, merely walking on a plowed field. Somebody else invested a lot of money. He plowed his entire field to prepare it for planting. And when you stomp on it, you're messing up the plow. So you're damaging him. Well, if that's the case, why is this a issue only on Shabbos? Afilu b'chol nami. This is being mazik what your friend did. The elam ishamasovim. So it must be that the reason why you're not allowed to do that is because if you pick up a rock in the field to wipe yourself, and the rock has some moss on it, you might be toilish the rock. You might be toilish the asovim from the rock, and Rashi learns that that's considered being toilish, because the makam gidulai, even though it's not growing from the ground, moss on a rock is considered growing from the ground, and it would be also to remove moss from a rock on Shabbos. In fact, Rish Lakish holds that you're allowed to be mekanech with it. So even though there's a deraisa of taking the moss off the rock, but you're allowed to use it because we don't assume for sure that in using it it's going to be toilish. So therefore it would be allowed. Ella, so that can't be the reason. The reason why you're not supposed to use a sudden near, go to the bathroom on Shabbos, he might take some earth or a rock from in front of him, and when he puts it back, he'll find a place in the field maybe where there's a hole, a depression, and he'll put it there, meaning he's going to now be a shvuya gumois. He's now going to be over the raisa of a shvuya gumois, which is told of chayrish. Umechayiv, and he'll be chayiv mishum derabba, because of Rabba's halacha that we actually learned. Laomer Rabba hoyshaloi guma. If you had a hole, the tamama, and you filled it up, the bias, if that's occurred in your home, chayiv mishum boina, because now you're fixing your house, and besod, if this happened in the field, chayiv mishum chayrish. So that because of this reason, a person should not go into a sadeh near and use the bathroom, and this shouldn't make a difference whether it's his field or somebody else's field, because it's a chash of chayrish. Actually, there are some Rishonim who learn that this changes the halacha. This is only in your own field. In your own field, you want to fix it up, and there you'll be chayiv mishum chayrish. But in somebody else's field, where your intention is not to improve that field, it might not be a problem. Gufa.
Don't you normally remove stones if you're plowing a field? Don't you want to take the stones away?
Well, yeah, but could be if he's using it to make it flat, that would be a problem. So you're saying even if he was using it to make it flat, why would that be a problem? That's not improving it.
Exactly, because normally in a field, before you plow it, you remove all the stones.
So let's see what Rashi says. Where there's a little pile. I don't know. We already learned that you're not allowed to use a clump of earth because it could crumble. It has to be a rock. And you're saying why was a rock? A shviya guma? You're saying it's only a mila if it's earth. If I'm doing it with rock, maybe not. Okay, but I guess you see here from the Gemara that is a problem. Okay, let's see the Gemara right now. Gufa. You have a rock that grew moss. You're allowed to use it. We learn from our Shlokish the following halacha. High parfisa, shori little tule. A parfisa is not going to be muksa. You're allowed to move it around. What is a parfisa? I want to learn Rashi inside. It's a fascinating thing. They had a fascinating way of doing kaporis in the times of the Gemara. So let's see what Rashi says. A parfisa is a otzesnokov. It's a flower pot that has holes in it. Shazarabo, you planted in it. V'tshuvas ha'ga'onim atzasi, she'oshin choislois me kapois tomorrow. They would make a little basket out of a little flower pot out of date leaves. It had holes in it. Umamal noisen offer v'zevel behema. They would fill it up with earth and they would fertilize it, and then they would plant in it. The chav beis oitesvav yoim l'fnei Rosh Hashanah, either 22 days or 15 days before Rosh Hashanah. Oizin kol echad ve'echad l'shem kol katan uktana shebebayis. They would prepare these flower pots for every person in the house. V'zorim l'sechem pula mitzri, and they would plant one of these flower pots on behalf of each person in their family, either pula mitzri or kidneys. The karin loi perfisa. They called it a perfisa. The tumas. Perfisa v'tumas is what they called it. The erev Rosh Hashanah, on the erev Rosh Hashanah, noitul kol echad shaloi. Everybody would take this flower pot with the bean plant growing in it, umachziroi svivoi shreishoi, and you would put it around his head, shiva pamim, 7 times. Laomer, you would say zeh tachazeh, v'zeh chalifosi, v'zeh tumurasi, umashlich nar, and then he would throw it into the ocean. So this was their interesting primitive way of doing kaparas. Rabbi Elvin spoke out just an interesting little tidbit that zeh chalifosi, zeh tumurasi, zeh kaparasi. The Rosh Tevis of kaparasi, of tumurasi, kaparasi, and chalifosi, tumurasi, and kaparasi is chatach. Chatach is the name of the malach that's mamuna on parnasa. So the ma'aseh kaparis that we do is a special skula for parnasa. He says it over the Shem Chasam Sofer, and he also said that the reason why our minig is to use a chicken, because the chicken is called a gever, and we want the chicken to be in place of the person, in place of a gaver, to accept our affairs. But anyway, let's go back to that. So this special flower pot, Amar by Parfisa. I'm sorry, let's go back over here. Hi Parfisa, shoyl tatula, you're allowed to carry. Maskala of Kahana, im omu l'tzarech, yomi shalai l'tzarech. Just because they said they were matter that you're allowed to move this rock, and we say it's not considered toilish by picking up the rock, just because they allowed it for a special reason, you need it for a bathroom. Who said they'd allow you to pick up this otzus nokov? Who said they'd allow you to lift it off the ground for no reason at all? Maybe they're only matir because of kovod habriyos, but that doesn't mean that you should be able to move around a parfisa on Shabbos. Omer Abaye, parfisa, hoil v'osel yodon. Now that we're discussing this parfisa, lema milsa. Let's say a halacha regarding the parfisa. If you had this parfisa that was sitting on the ground, and now you lifted it up so it's not directly on the ground, you'd be chayiv al toilish. And Rashi and Tosfos both say that it's not deraisa toilish, it's midarabbanan toilish, because you're taking it further away from the ground and it won't be yoinik as much. But the Rambam actually learns that it will be toilish midaraisa. And this is mamish nageh halacha l'maisa. If you have a flower pot, if you're allowed to lift it up from the ground, according to the Rambam, it's isur deraisa. What if you have a flower pot that was not sitting directly on the ground, that was raised on legs, and then you took it off the legs and you put it right on the ground? You would be chayiv als planting, because now you're bringing it closer to its source of inika. Also, the kaneach becheres b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to use a shard of cheres on Shabbos. My timer, if you're going to say it's dangerous because it's sharp and he might cut himself, well, you shouldn't be able to use that during the weekday either. The elamishim kshafim, elamai, you're going to say it's because if you use cheres, it causes a problem with kshafim, which the Gemara is going to discuss soon. Well, again, so what is the reason why it should only be a problem on Shabbos? We're afraid that since it's very sharp, as someone's using it, it might cut some hairs down there. So that shouldn't be a problem either, because davar she'ein mischavenu, and davar she'ein mischavenu, it's an opposite ratio, and therefore it shouldn't be a problem. A great person said this halacha. It was Rabbi Yochanan, so there has to be a good reason for it. Name about taima. We're going to say a reason. We're going to explain Rabbi Yochanan because Rabbi Yochanan is worthwhile explaining. Lo yibai the choil the aser. For sure in choil it's aser because you can use rocks. Shabbos, you might think on Shabbos where you have to compromise to use rocks because you have to use the wave. You have to use the waver that the Chazal will wave the Isser Muksa, al kovod habriyos. But if you use cheres is not muksa because it's roy for something, it's a keli. So you might think it's better to use cheres. Because Torah's clear law of Shabbos, Kamash Malon, that even in the weekdays, even on Shabbos, you should not use cheres. You might think you should look away from the fact that cheres can cause other problems because at least you don't have to violate muksa. Kamash Malon, no. You're better off violating muksa and using a stone even on Shabbos. Rava Rava explained Rabbi Yochanan's halacha why you're not allowed to use a cheres on Shabbos is because you might cut a hair. The kosher of Rabbi Yochanan, and he had a shverkeit, a steer of Rabbi Yochanan, like we just asked, that it's a davar she'ein mechaben. Mi omer Rabbi Yochanan osur lekanech becheres b'Shabbos. Would he hold it's osur? Alma davar she'ein mischaben osur. It shows that he holds the davar she'ein mischaben is osur. The omer Rabbi Yochanan lachach sta mishnah, where it says that a davar she'ein mischaben is mutter. With non nazir choyfeif, he could flatten his hair, mafasos, he could scrub his hair, or choyfeif scrub, mafasos is smooth. Avaloy sorik, he can't comb it. Meaning you're allowed to do things that might cause hair to come out, but aren't psik ratio, because the davar she'ein mechaben is not osur. But you're not allowed to comb, because if you comb, for sure it'll tear hair out. So that would be osur. So you see, Rabbi Yochanan is matir by davar she'ein mechaben. So why would he outlaw? Why would he not allow you to use a cheres? You have to be samech that the isser is mishum ksafim. My ksafim. What exactly is this ksafim that someone could suffer from if he uses cheres? Rabbi Chisda and Rabbi Bar Huna have a ka'azel ba'arba. They're about to embark on a trip. Amr lu hahi mitrinusa. There was this goyish lady who said, "Is it okay? Can I join in your trip? Can I come on the ship with you?" They didn't let her join them. Amr hi, she said, milsa. She said some kishiv thing. Asrasal arba. It disabled the boat. The boat would have moved. So they had to undo her spell. Amr inu milsa. They said something. Sherhuya. That freed the boat up. So she saw that she was unable to cast a spell on them that they wouldn't be able to get rid of on their own. Amr lahu, she told him, my avad lahu. I guess there's nothing I can do. I don't have, my spells do not have a power over you. You know why my spells don't have a power over you? Because you don't use shards of cheres to wipe yourself. So you see here clearly that there's an Indian not to use cheres, because if you use cheres, it opens yourself up to being susceptible to a kishiv spell. And the other thing you don't do is you never kill a bug on your baguette, which also opens you up to kishiv. If the gardener, the farmer, pulled out a whole bunch of carrots from the ground and he ties them up into a bundle, or a bunch of radishes, or a bunch of garlic, whatever it is, and it's in a bundle, you'll never pull one of the vegetables out of the bundle and eat it. Rather, if you want to eat it, you'll open up the whole bundle and you'll take them all, but you won't pull one out of the bundle, because all of these things makes one susceptible to kishuf spells, and you didn't do it. So there's some very interesting stuff over here. The first interesting thing is, how is it possible that they did kishuf? How could they do kishuf? So because they had to undo her spell. So Rashi actually learns that they didn't do kishuf. Rashi learns that Amr in the Milta they shehem tahira. So she did kishuf, but they did shem tahira. But there are those who learn that you're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do kishuf, but you're allowed to use kishuf to undo their kishuf to protect yourself, which means that vice the choice that you're allowed to learn kishuf for the halachic purposes. But the Rizal says, no, I'm sorry, the Baal Shem Tov says, that we have over here a girsa that went bad. We have a mistake, because it's brought down that if someone is afraid of a kishuf attack, you should say the words mechashefa loy sechaya. And when you say mechashefa loy sechaya, it eliminates any kishuf thing. And in fact, that's really the story here. When she did the kishuf that the boat should have moved, all it said was mechashefa loy sechaya. And what was written in the Gemara originally was mem, lamed, sof, with the two strechlech to show that it was a Rosh Tevis. But over the years, the girsa got ruined, and his Amrinu Milsa, they said a thing, and Shiruya that unlocked the ship, and Rashi says, Al Yidei Shem Tire. But the Baal words Milsa really shouldn't say Milsa, it should say Mem Lam of Sof, which is Rosh Tevis of Mechashefa Lo Sechaya. When they said those words, that's what broke the spell, and maybe that's what Rashi means. Al Yidei Shem Tire, they said the word Mechashefa Lo Sechaya, which freed up the ship. What does he say in the base over here? No, it doesn't say what it was.
It's really strange that her one response would talk about the shard of Cheres. I mean, that's like nothing else, and that she would even know that. I mean, that's
well, she was giving a list of things that makes people protected from kishuf. She said, since my kishuf isn't working for you, I know for sure that you must not be makhlid in all these things. Because if you would not be makhlid in all these things, if you relax in even one of these things, my kishuf would have worked on you.
Okay, so that's just one of a list of things that she said?
She listed 3 things. It's just clearly you don't do any of those 3 things, because if
Right.
you did, my kishuf would have worked.
Okay.
Now,
Sure.
I could go by to if you want, or we could stop here, whatever you want. I'm just thinking if you want to make up for some time, but it's already 8:30. So I guess it's 8:25. So whatever.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, have a very good day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you so much.